All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry I couldn't be here today, but I made this video to help you with the Density of Liquids lab and adding your graphs, adding the data table, and working on the questions. So one of the nice things about this video is that you can stop it, you can rewind it, you can pause it, you can go back to something I said. If you wonder how I do something, you can go back and see it again. Also, I told the substitute that while you're doing this, you can feel free to work with your lab partner while you're doing this, so the both of you can be doing this together. You can go back and work at the lab together if you wish. Any of those things is okay, but we're going to help you get through this as much as we can since I am not here today. So the first thing you need to do is you need to open up the properties of Liquid Lab, both the document and the spreadsheet that you filled out yesterday. So I have a filled out spreadsheet here that I'm going to use. It's not the same data as yours, so you don't need to change your data, but I'm just going to use it to be able to show you how to do things. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to have to do, excuse me, is we're going to have to get to the point in our lab where it wants us to include the data on the masses and densities of the lab, to insert the table from the Google Sheet to here below. So I'm going to get my cursor right below where it says insert table from Google Sheet. That's my blinking cursor right here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the Google Sheet and I'm going to click in the box up here, A1. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and I'm going to use the arrows on my keypad to highlight this entire table all the way down to the last boxes down here in cell 21, and you'll notice how everything is highlighted. I'm then going to hit Control C to copy it. I'm now going to go back into my lab and I'm going to click on that cursor again so that it's blinking, and I'm going to hit Control V. Yes, I want to link to the spreadsheet. I don't want to paste unlinked. Control V is the shortcut keyboard to paste something. And now everything moves into your lab for you in the document. Everything is there. Okay. Apparently I have a word spelled wrong here. I'm going to correct it just so that it looks a little better, ladies and gentlemen. If I misspelled this word in your lab, please feel free to correct it as well. So that is how you bring in your data table, ladies and gentlemen. And that is one of the things that you need to get done. So again, I'm going to show you this again so that you can see it again. I go into the actual lab. I highlight the first box, A1. I'm holding down the Shift key on my keyboard, and now I'm using the mouse or the arrow keypad to select all the way to column E and all the way down to cell 21. I don't want to go beyond this. I don't want any extras. I don't want any blanks. I don't want to go any further. You could do this with your mouse pad and things too. I find this the easiest way to do it. On my keyboard, I'm going to hit Control C. You could also come up here to Edit, and you could copy. That will work as well. I'm going to go into my document again, get to the spot where I want to be, get my blinking cursor right under the word Insert. And again, you can do Control V to paste, or you can come up here to Edit, Paste. Again, you want it to link to the spreadsheet and you can put it in. Again, I have to correct that spelling error because unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I took it out and now I need to correct it again. Okay? So there you go. That's how to put in your data table. Now, we're going to go back into the Google Sheet. And down at the bottom, there are two tabs. We just did the density data. Now we're going to do the density graphs. On your graph, you should have three lines of green, a blue, and a red, just like I did. The red is alcohol, the blue is water, and the green is the glycerin. I used green on this only because if I used clear or white, it wouldn't show up. Now, you need to change three things about this graph before you paste it into your document. We need to change the x-axis label and unit, the y-axis label and unit, and change the title. So to do that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hit Edit Chart. Now, when you hit Edit Chart, it brings up two options, Setup or Customize. Do not touch anything in Setup. Go to Customize. When you are in Customize, you have a bunch of options here, but the one that I want is Chart and Axis Titles. Now, when you do that, it brings down a menu underneath it. We're going to begin with the horizontal axis title. Okay, so we are going to start with the horizontal axis title. The horizontal axis is the axis that you controlled in the lab, the variable that you controlled. So I'm going to take out here where it says label and unit. I'm going to get rid of that. Now I'm going to type in what from the table is on the x-axis. And what from the table is on the x-axis is the volume, and it is in milliliters. So I type in the word volume. I do ml in parentheses here, and you'll notice it appears down here. When I'm done typing, I hit enter. Click off of it onto the graph. You have done that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up. And again, if you need to pause this, go back to see how I did it, you are welcome to. But I'm still under Customize. I'm still under Chart and Axis Titles, but now I'm going to go to the vertical axis title. Okay, so for my vertical axis title, I am going to again change the label and unit, and I'm going to change it to be mass, and the unit is in grams. I'm going to type in mass, parenthesis G parenthesis. Notice it comes up over here. If you want to change things about it like the font and the color and things, you can do that down here. You don't have to. It's fine. It's done. You have got your X and Y axis is now complete. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take it. I'm going to change my chart title. Now, what the chart title is up here shows up in this box, but I want to get rid of all of that. And for the title, we are going to do what the label on the x-axis is volume. I don't need to put the unit, versus what the label is on the y-axis, mass. I'm going to do volume versus mass. Again, if you want to change things about it, you can there. But there is my title, ladies and gentlemen. And now my graph is ready for me to import it. I'm ready to put it into my document. Once you have changed the x-axis down here, the y-axis over here, and the title to be just what I have here, you are ready to put this graph into your document. Now here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to go in the document, and I'm going to get to the graph right under where it says Insert Graph from Google Sheet below. Now, to do this, you are going to go up to Insert, Chart. Now, when you get to Chart, you're going to go across until you get to these options and then hit From Sheet. Now, when you do this, you shouldn't have quite as many options as I do, but the Properties of Liquid spreadsheet should be right here. You should be able to click on that. When you click on it, it brings up Insert, and then it will bring up a picture of the graph. Click on it and hit Import. And now put your graph in there. Your graph has your title, your x-axis, and your y-axis labels. Your graph is complete. I'm going to show you that one more time, ladies and gentlemen, just so that you get it again. I'm sitting with my cursor right under the word Insert, Insert, Chart. Now, if I try to go down here to Sheets, I may not be fast enough and it may go away. So I go over and I go to From Sheets. Again, hopefully not as many choices under Recent for you. Click on the one that is in the upper left-hand corner. Hit Insert. It brings up the one graph that is in there. You click on it to highlight it, and then you can hit Import. Now you have got your graph in there, ladies and gentlemen. So you should have your table done. You should have your graph done. If you need to pause this or you need to go back, now would be a great time to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward in a second to the questions. All right, so let's get to the questions, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to describe the shape of all three of these lines. Is the line straight or is it curved? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it horizontal or is it vertical? Horizontal means straight across, vertical means straight up and down. So when you look at this graph, ladies and gentlemen, red line is alcohol, blue line is water, green line is glycerin. I want you to tell me what the shape of each one of those lines is and what direction it is headed. Is it going up, going down, horizontal, or vertical? So you should be able to answer those three by looking at your graph. Take a minute, get that done. Pause this because I'm going to move on in just a second. Okay, hopefully you've unpaused it. Now what I want you to do is between these three lines on your graph, I want you to tell something that is the same about them and something that is different. Please don't tell me the colors are different. I want you to look at these graphs and tell me what is the same about them. Give me something about these three graphs that is the same and something that is different. I will give you some leeway with this because I am not there, but you need to come up with one similarity and one difference for each of these graphs. Type that in here. Okay? Now, question 3. I'm sorry, I'm going to pause for a second so you can put me on pause so you can finish that question. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, question 3 says, what does the graph tell us about the property of density and its relationship to change in mass and volume? In other words, how does density change as mass and volume changes? Now, for this, ladies and gentlemen, we can look at the graph or we can go back and look at the data table. I'm going to start by going back and looking at the data table. So when you look at the mass of water here, the mass of water is always changing. It is always going up, but so is the volume. Both are increasing, both are changing, but look at the density of water. Look at those numbers. Those numbers aren't really changing, and hopefully they didn't in your lab either. Now, they're not exactly the same, but they are very, very close. Let's go down and look at alcohol. Again, the volume is changing, the mass is changing, but is the density really changing? Do that for glycerin. The volume is going up, the mass is going up, but what do you notice about the density here? So in this question, you are going to explain to me what we see. Well, we said we know that the mass is going up and we know that the volume is going up. So you need to tell me that. In this lab, the mass of the water went up as its volume went up. But what happened to its density? Did its density go up, go down, or stay the same? That is what you need to tell me about in this question. Please pause it, answer that question, and then come back to me in just a minute when you're done with it. This is your last question, ladies and gentlemen, and this entire question can be done by using Google and looking up the definition of intensive and extensive properties online. Now, please remember, this is a chemistry of science class. So when you find intensive property online, make sure it has something to do with chemistry class. Same with extensive property. You can take and copy those right out of Google and put them right into here. Down at the bottom, ladies and gentlemen, are the 3 properties that we looked at in this lab: mass, volume, and density. Based on your definitions of intensive and extensive, or based on some research you do, Asking Google, is mass intensive or extensive property? I want you to answer these 3 by telling me that mass, volume, and density are either intensive or extensive. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything you need. You should be able to finish the graph, the tables, and the questions, and you should be able to submit it or turn it in. It is not due until Monday, so if you want to wait and turn it in Monday, and if you have a few questions, I will answer them for you. But this is how you should be able to complete the lab and get it done, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions whatsoever, you're going to have to wait till Monday to ask me, or you're going to have to send me an email. That's it for the video, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting this done, and hopefully you can turn in your lab. Have a good day. We will see you on Monday.